What's up, you guys? So what you just heard was all random gibberish stuff that I just made with this plugin called Fracture. It's a free plugin. I'll link the website down below so you can see it in the description. So it's a freeware. This is what the plugin looks like, and I know at first it looks very alien-like and very different, but I can guarantee to you that this is a really fun plugin. It's probably the most fun I've ever had with a plugin that was free. It's a really cool effect thing. It reminds me so much of the first time I started using Effectrix, that one plugin. It was so fun using that plugin for the first time. This kind of reminds me of that feeling. So all this that you hear, it's just chopped up stuff from what I made with Fracture. Now Fracture is something, it's not an instrument, it's just like an effect unit, so it goes on a sample or an audio track and you can just mess around with it. So I'm going to show you what I originally was starting with so that you can get an idea of what this was at first. So this is what I started with. And then I ended up with this. So let me just play this now. Actually, this is what I ended up with. So I turned, that loop into pretty much this wobbly thing, but this thing does so much more than just wobbles. I just kind of was playing around with that. So, let me bring down the dry wet so you can kind of hear it come in. So once I found something that I liked, all I did was I quickly just froze the track. So, make sure that Fracture is on, and I'll just freeze all this. So when you freeze something in Ableton, it's pretty much just making it its own bounce for itself. And then you can just drag that onto another audio track, and it's that bounce pretty much. So now we can just hear this the way it is. Let me turn off the Fracture here. So pretty much just bounce that without having to record or anything like that. But we're just going to undo this real quick, and we're just going to make something new, because Fracture is really fun. So, I've just been making random stuff, for quite, maybe a half an hour with this, so it's been really fun. So let me just create this loop, and we're just going to play around with this. And it comes packed full of presets as well, so let's just start off with there. Okay, so I'm gonna go with this one. And, everything tells you what it is. So at first it looks all very confusing, but it basically starts with, size. So this one right here. So you can play around with the size and the length of it pretty much. And then, you have other things like ratio and, what's this thing? Repeats. Repeats is really, really fun to play with, because from what I understand is the repeats is how many times it'll play a certain pattern over and over, but the longer you make it, the more interesting it gets, because then the feedback from down here and the delay will carry over into those repeats and make it a really cool effect. But if you have just one repeat, then it kind of restarts itself from all over. So, the longer the repeat, the more cool it can be, but if it's too long, you might not hear its full potential. So it's kind of like the amp envelope in a way. And then you have these wheels here. That's pretty much the mod depth for each of these. So the more you have this, the more that the LFOs can affect it. So you have these, LFOs at the end of each one. So pretty much you set the size, the ratio, and all that stuff here, and then you can affect it with the LFO, and then you can sync all three of these LFOs together or not. And then down here you have pretty much a filter, so just a generic filter section, and you can set the reso and the cutoff here, and then it has a little bit again, another mod depth wheel right here, so you can set this to 100% or not at all, and then the LFO will affect that. And then you have a delay section. So, you know, all of this is very simple once you just break it down into, you know, set the size, the ratio, a filter section, and a delay section. And this is your dry wet for the delay, and then your bottom dry wet for the whole thing. So it's very simple, and it does so much. So we're just gonna clear everything. So clear. Okay, well, I'm not really sure how to unclear. I need to make my own default for this. When I get into a new plugin, I usually make my own defaults and save my own folder of presets on the computer. I did that with Massive when I first got it years ago. I did that with Silent when I first got that years ago, and now I have hundreds of presets. So I love making presets, because as much as I love the presets that comes with anything, you know, I like to kind of learn how to use it myself and then only start using my things. And that's pretty much how it is with anything that I've been using for a long time. So I'm just gonna load, or like for example, I'll show you my folder here. So I put this in my other documents so I could quickly show it. So I've already made like 4 of my own presets within half an hour, and you know, I'm pretty happy with these. So that's the kind of stuff you could come up with. So, you know, we could go with that for a sec. And we can bring down the dry wet because I had it up all the way. And let's bring the repeats up. So let's bring that out to like 32. Now let's bring it down to 1 to see the difference. You know, that's only what I'm guessing it does. I'm not too sure of that, and it's not like this thing came with a manual, so, well, not that I would have read, actually I would have read it, but, you know, I'm just kind of figuring this out like I do with most things, just by kind of playing around with it at first. So, you know, the point is, check this out. Now I'll show you kind of how to, again, bounce this stuff out and kind of make these weird loops. So I have my Keyshade loop things, you know, I'm making a sample pack. So this loop down here is from that. So I'm going to just generate something here. I'm just going to delete this stuff. And then I'm just going to bounce this. So quickly, let me just freeze this track. So now it's frozen, and now I can drag the audio out of this. And so that's what it looks like. So I can unfreeze this or not. It doesn't really matter. And now I can just kind of listen to this. And again, now that I have this stuff bounced, I can actually add another fracture to it. And I just added my sidechain compression and auto filter that I have a rack for all this stuff. So I just have a folder of racks for, you know, to save some time on the generic stuff that I usually find myself doing. So let's listen to this. And what I like to do with audio is I like to consolidate it like that. So that's Command J or Control J if you're on PC. I'm going to make a copy of this, and I'm just going to kind of chop it up, or I could load it into a sampler. Oh, yeah, I haven't even done that yet. So let's load this into a sampler. So a simpler, I mean. And I got the wrong thing for that. So let's create a MIDI track. So I'm just going to load this into a sampler. So instruments, simpler. This is just me kind of messing about. So now if I kind of listen to this. So you can kind of think of the simpler when you play notes on the keyboard, kind of like you're playing a different transposition of this sample every time you trigger a note lower or higher than C3. So I kind of like to think of samplers sometimes as, you know, synths, or not synths, but kind of like instruments in their own way. So, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this. I kind of wanted to chop it up, be old school. So I'm just gonna get rid of that, but that was just an idea. So let's kind of make some small loops and listen in. So kind of like that. So I'm going to take this chop out, and I'm just going to do something like this, kind of just test the waters. Now let me reverse this one. Let's see how that's. Alright, and I'm going to probably do something like this, create a smaller loop. I probably need to zoom in a little bit more so Ableton can do its thing. Actually, let me just do something like this. Let me get rid of that. Let's get this part. And let's add some reverb really quick. Let's do something like that. Okay, let's grab the reverb from here. Okay, so now let's just freeze this real quick. Blah, blah, blah. Sure, that's fine. Let me actually just turn that off so there's no problems. So let's freeze this. Cannot be blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I turned it off, Ableton, so your move. Alright, so my plan was to kind of get a reverb freeze with this, but that's fine. And let's consolidate all this real quick. Let me try to freeze it one more time. Okay, so let me just get rid of this shit. So I'll copy it, delete it, let me see if it works now. Okay, so now that's kind of what I wanted it to do. Now let's drag this out. And so let me make sure nothing's on this, so I can just delete that fracture. And now that I have all that into one sample, I can now transpose this down and kind of maybe match the key of my sample, my loop here, which would be great, which is kind of the next thing I would do. So let me get a spectrum out, and let me make sure I can see what key this is in. So I'm seeing a lot of octaves of D. This might be too hard to tune, so I might just do it for you know, what sounds cool instead of tuning it. I liked something that's now happening. I think it's in here. So whatever's going on right here, I really like that. So I'm gonna just option hold and click over here. Again, I'm just messing about. Nope, that wasn't it. There we go, that was really cool. I like that. So that was nice. Let's now take that out and do something different with this. Let's do something like that. So this is just, again, me just playing around, not really trying to make anything, just trying to have fun. And I can, again, transpose this one up again. Let me try reverse one of these. Let me see how that sounds. And I can probably do something like that. Oh wow, so if I really start arranging something, it might be really cool. And if I go back to my other track, unfreeze it, and grab that reverb and automate that, that might be cool as well. So where the fuck is this? Okay, so let me grab this reverb from here. I don't really care about the sidechain, so I can actually get rid of this. I'm gonna put that reverb now here. Don't really need my spectrum. And by the way, this reverb setting is I set this to I have a reverb setting that I set as my default for Ableton. So every time I open my reverb, it opens to different times than when you open up your Ableton reverb by default. So the way you would do that anyways, see this little save preset? When you do that, you can also, I think there's another box that lets you save a default. So I'll just do it just in case. So there's a reverb setting, and you can, let me see where usually tells you where you can do that. Or actually I'm wrong. You can just click on the plugin like that and save as a default preset, and then every time you open up any plugin up, it'll open that. So that's just a little Ableton stuff for you to know. So now we're kind of, I kind of think it'd be cool if I maybe tried a slower tempo. Kind of seems like 110 would be cool. The loop is gonna sound like crap, but maybe this stuff will sound alright. Nah, I don't have the right glitch hop type samples for this in that halftime feel. But let's keep playing around. Oh, I love that little thing right here. So we're gonna take that out. So just option click. I hear a little click at the end, so or a little pop, I mean, at the end. So when you hear those pops, those are bad. So you want to also have your fade tool automation around, so it's a little bit cleaner. So now every time I move this sample in on itself, the fade follows it, so I won't hear those clicks and pops. I really like that. That's really cool for just random stuff. Oh, this is what's annoying me. I had the other thing on. I could just delete that. I really don't care about that stuff. I can generate all this randomly. So let me just now consolidate this, because I like to do that. I like to kind of save my work. I think I just made a loop for a little loop section for my my loops presets, or my loop sample pack thing, because I'm gonna have some extra stuff in there, kind of like this stuff. So this is fun. I'll make one more and then I'll just end the video, because I've already shown you what I want to do in this video. But let's see, maybe I can incorporate some more fracture into this, since I've already you know, kind of introduced it. And also on my on this loop right here, I have fracture as well, but it's the dry wet's all the way down. So I'm gonna kind of just show you what this can do to loops like this. So this is kind of what it sounds like by itself. And now if I kind of bring in the dry wet. So you can kind of get the feeling that this would be a really fun plugin to automate. So if I kind of do that, if I just click on the dry wet, now I'm going to see the dry wet automation line. So now I can just get out the pencil tool. So Command B, just draw in the dry wet like that, put a point here, unclick it like that, and now the plugin will kind of follow along. So now you'll see this automation line. Let me even curve it a bit down, and you'll see the dry wet rise with this. This would be better over a long period of time, so maybe let's give myself 2 bars. 2 bars is not a long period of time, but you know, usually with automation things, I like to have it over 8 or 16 bars if it's going to be a really cool effect. And maybe let me just have it reach this point by then. And you can also do little things like that. And you know, maybe have it be a little bit more smooth. Let me click this off. So maybe like that. And like I said earlier, that plugin, I'll link where you can get that from in the description below. And there's tons of free stuff there for Mac and PC. There's more stuff for PC there, so I kind of now hate myself for being a Mac user in this case, because there's much more freeware for PC. But you know, you might want to take a look around that website. There's a ton of cool stuff there. So let's grab something from here. Let's turn on Fracture, or let's get Fracture onto that. So, but let's put it actually after the reverb, so that way I can process the reverb through Fracture, as opposed to Fracture before the reverb, and the reverb just processes what's coming out Fracture. So let's do that. Right, and let's create a loop. And I'm going to load in one of the other ones I made. So I have a folder on my computer that I saved with some of this stuff. So let's just open up another one of the presets I made. And okay, this automation is fucking me up. So let's turn that off. Right there. And let's bring the reverb up a bit. So I want more reverb, 50%, a lot of it. Okay, we're gonna bring down the reverb. It's maybe too much. More dry wet. The only thing I kind of don't like is the way the delay mix sounds. You know, I wish it wasn't, you know, well, I don't know. I kind of don't really love it, but I do see how I could come up with really cool stuff with it. So, okay, let's try this. So we're just going to create another audio track. We're going to just click here, freeze this, so, you know, right clicking, pretty much. Now I can just drag all this shit down. So this, let's see, I do have stuff there, so we're going to unfreeze it. And let's see, I don't believe I need any of this stuff on to hear how this sounded, right? Yep, that was cool. And let's consolidate all this right here. So you kind of get the idea of how my workflow's been throughout this video. It's just kind of me very comfortable with Ableton, and just it allows me to act so freely. So I suggest you guys learn key commands as well for consolidating and things like that. I kind of might think that there's a key command for freezing tracks, but I don't know that one yet. So let's turn off anything that might be here. Let's transpose this. You know, it reminds me of this one job I had for a while, or not a job, but I got a job or a gig to just make radio effects, and this is kind of reminding me of doing that kind of stuff. It sounds like those like little radio inserts. 98.7, those kind of things. So now let's just sort of chop this up. Alright, let's listen to it actually. Okay, I'm gonna try something here. So I'm gonna just get this part, and we're gonna listen to that. And I forgot that we have fracture on this, so I'm gonna turn that off. And let's just start like that. You know, if this was like 1989 or 1993, that might be a cool electro song, but by today's standards, not so much. So let's keep fooling around with that. So let's kind of play with this again. Right. Okay, I'm not pretty happy with that, so let's... And hopefully I'm not going too fast, and just kind of, that's kind of how my workflow is. And also you might notice I just chopped this up. That was Command E, so let's try this. I'm kind of curious how these two would sound together. I know it's going to sound bad, but whatever. Rhythmically, it's going to sound bad. Let me just do a consolidate, save that over there. And if I just group these together, I can just, whoops, not Command F, Command G, these two together, so I can get in a group, go to my racks. I make my own racks, you know, just to save myself some time. Let's go here. Let's just set this to audio 3, or nope, that'd be audio 4. To sidechain to the kick, I'm gonna bring this threshold up, lower this filter down to 100. Now I'm just gonna freeze, I'm gonna consolidate this, freeze that because I want to save the reverb. Now let's kind of just option hold so I can get this over here. And bam. And I'm just gonna go ahead and unfreeze that. And now I'm just gonna listen to it over here again, but without this reverb. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end the video because I could just go on forever and ever and ever just making fun weird stuff. So let me just call this Complextro blah blah blah, save this session, and thanks guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the randomness and the stuff I had to show you, and lates.